I don't think so.
That's a song from the aerobic scene in Pieces. Which for me has been like my whole fucking life I've been looking for this song. And in fact, when Bob Murawski did the DVD for Grindhouse, he called that chapter Running Around. And when Camp Sugar Music approached me about doing like a collection, I mean, they have 8,000 unreleased songs. So I was like, okay, you know, it's a bit overwhelming, and I don't really have time to listen to 8,000 songs. But when they finally did it, we had a, you know, when they finally gave me the selection of like 400 to kind of choose from, the first one was Running Around. I was like, oh my god, that's the fucking song in Pieces. Because it was a music library, so they would just use the songs in like a bunch of different movies. People would just license them. The music's Pieces of Music by Cam, but it's from a movie called Beyond the Fragola. So I brought copies of Red Light Disco here, which we will have at the table tomorrow. But yes. All right, it's great to be here.
Yeah.
Eli, I believe you have some information to share with us, what you've been up to lately?
Yes. I don't know if you guys heard, but I'm launching a new horror mini studio called The Horror Section. So it's exactly, but someone came to me with a really interesting proposition, because it's something I've been wanting to do for a while, and kind of the holy grail of making independent movies that I could never crack was distribution. Because even though I've gotten my films distributed, there's always this lottery where you've got to sell it to Lionsgate, you've got to get it to Sony, and then you've got to fit into their schedule. So it's like this weird timing of what you're doing and what they're looking for. Like, I remember with Green Inferno, Lionsgate's like, oh, we already have You're Next. I was like, what? So why not just get both? They're like, yeah, but that's our August movie. Like in their minds, they had a slot and they already filled it. So it's not about the movie, it's often about the other movies they have. But seeing what, you know, Damien Leone did with Terrifier and Terrifier 3 and Iconic, it just changed. I was like, oh, we're there. We're at the point where we can release a movie unrated in 2,700 theaters, and it's going to open bigger than like a $150 million tentpole studio film. That's what we need, is to know, because often I'd say, why can't we release our movies unrated? And they would say, well, if you do an unrated movie, televisions won't accept your commercials. I'm like, no, I'm not going to have unrated commercials. They go, no. Even if you have unrated content, which is, it's fucking crazy. That doesn't make sense. They're like, television won't accept it if it's because they're worried that their sponsors will get mad that they're advertising an unrated film, blah, blah, blah. So it was kind of a tricky thing, but what, you know, they did, you know, with Bloody Disgusting and Dread Central and sort of direct going to the fans. Now that we have social media, it's over. We don't fucking need television anymore.
Yeah.
We just post it. It's like, we now fully, and it's just kind of what I started from Cabin Fever until now with, thank you. It wasn't efficient, but I'll take it. There's one advantage of being old, is that, yeah, you're fucking doing it a long time, you can, you know, learn some things, but, you know, horror truly is its own ecosystem. You know, there's the conventions, there's the films, there's so much more to being a horror fan now. The online culture, the cosplay, that I said, I want to do a studio that'll be for the next, you know, 5 or 10 years, now it's time to really get going. Like, if everything I learned from working with filmmakers and making movies and making studio movies and making indie movies, what if I could control the process from start to finish? And then someone said, well, there's this new company out called Republic, and what they do is they can do a public offering, and you can offer a piece of your company to the public. I'm like, what do you mean? They're like, I was like, is this like Kickstarter? What the fuck is this? I was totally skeptical. I'm like, is this some crypto scam? And they're like, no. It's a legit platform where basically, if I'm raising money, which I am, or I have the money, like, you take 10% of your company and you can offer it for the public to buy. Because if you're an average horror fan, I as a fan could never buy into a movie. But now, because they're a registered SEC trade, without getting too boring, you know, for like, you know, $100, $500, $1,000, you can buy ownership in a company, like a stock. So it's basically, people said, if you were a stock, I'd buy you. So I thought, okay, well, I don't want to have to put it all on one movie because then it's all or nothing. What if we look at a company? I think about my IP. I was like, Green Inferno now is like gaining steam. Thank you. Yeah, it's like in 10 years, but it takes. Look at Terrifier. Look at Art the Clown. When was he introduced? 2011, 2016. It's like we've. And now everyone's like, wow, how did Terrifier 3 happen? Well, I'll tell you how it happened. It's because people have been watching him and loving Art the Clown since 2011, 2012, and 2016, and Damien had time to develop the character. What if we develop the next 25 years of characters, like 40, 50 years from now? Because what matters is the IP. So what if I could build a company where people could buy into it and be at the exact same level that I'm at, same ownership level, there's no difference, and we all own it together. And then wouldn't you root for the movie in a different way? Even if it's fractional, even if it's $100, you still owned it. You'd be like incentivized to want it to be like, and then you get special acts. So it seemed like a really cool, interesting idea. And I was like, fuck it. And then I found out that, after I said it, they were like, yeah, Robert Rodriguez might do one with this company too. And Snoop Dogg, other people are like, this seems interesting, but do I want to be the first one out? So, we could have announced it yesterday, but for those who haven't seen, this is the video we just put out about, and we'll talk about the horror section. Dim the lights and cue that video. But what if every time I made a hit, like we're all meeting at a convention like this, and you've put money into it, but it's like, holy fuck, it's like a stock, as if you could buy stock in Apple. You're not getting sales from the iPhone, but you are getting your investment pieces going up. So if anyone wants to sign up, the QR code, you go to horrorsectionstudios.com, and you have to sign up with an email, and then you get the email invite from Republic. So it's kind of a crazy concept. And as soon as I first heard it, I'm always wary when people are like, here, give us money for a thing. But I thought, you know what? Fuck it. I'm gonna try it, and I think it's gonna work because we have the money to make the movies. We have it. It's just taking a tiny piece of it and offering it to the fans to give, average audiences and like diehard horror fans who would never be involved in producing a movie. It's just democratizing it in a way that you now, if you want to, yes, you can buy a ticket to a movie, you can buy the Blu-ray, you can buy anything, but if you could buy a piece of the company and somehow be connected to every single thing that company makes, how fucking cool is that? So, we can keep the lights up. I didn't mean to get moody and dark, although I like the after hours. So I have, obviously this was sort of came out while I was doing Thanksgiving. I still definitely want to do Thanksgiving too, but I'm looking at the next 5 to 10 years. Like I can't have another discussion with people. I can't explain to people why audiences want movies unrated, or why that's not too sick, or not too fucked up. And anytime people say to me like, oh, that's too sick, I take that as a good sign. But but it's a fight every single time, and I just can't do it anymore. So Iconic would thank you. Don't touch the buttons. But yeah, Iconic releasing, they've been great. Obviously, they had tremendous success with Terrifier, and they loved it. They're like, okay, you can. And other filmmakers trust me to kind of shepherd their movies, and I'm going to be very selective. I'm not going to be putting out 50 movies. I'd rather put like 3 or 4 a year, but have those ones be like fucking insane. So we're going to that's it. So we're going to get going soon.
When's the first one projected to come out? Or do you know what it'll be?
I do. I have an idea of what it's going to be. I have like a really fucked up haunted house movie I want to do, and but just something like what the fuck, like House by the Cemetery level batshit crazy, and I don't want any fucking limits. I don't want anyone telling me that's too disgusting. I don't want to have to cut anything. I want to do like Fulci level gore in a theatrical horror film. I've already talked to Adrian Moreau about doing the makeup effects. Like I want to do the movie that I want to see. Every movie I do should be like, well, if I die tomorrow, at least that one exists. So I'm not saying because I want to die tomorrow, but like I have to make it with that. So look, I had a great certainly learned a lot from doing studio movies. Good experiences, bad experiences, good outcomes, less than optimal outcomes. But when I make a horror movie, those are the ones that matter to me. Like when I think about the fact that people are still loving Cabin Fever or Green Inferno, just like, exactly. Like I always said, I remember when I talked to Quentin and told me the idea for Hostel, and I just turned out Well, by the way, yes, and we're going to be doing, and trust me, it's even a fight for me to get remasters. So yes, we're going to be announcing remasters of like the classics. I'm fighting the battle, and I think I've got everyone there to do 4K rescans of everything. But it's just like, even explaining, I mean, I can't even tell you the discussions I had on Thanksgiving to explain why we had to do a 4K disc. They were like, but it's available 4K on streaming. I'm like, can we, like, do you understand what a steel, like the fans, the heart? So I was just like, let me do my own company where start to finish. I have the idea, I'm the studio head, I have the money, I make the movie, we release it in theaters. We're not making movies for streaming, no disrespect to streaming, that is not what we're doing. We're like making movies for theaters, and then we can control it. And then have people that want to, if you want to be more involved in a movie, we're giving you the opportunity to, and you'll have the inside track on everything. And if you just want to see it in the theater, that's cool too. It's really just this fun option to get people, you know, more excited about every film.
But it seems like the difference to me is, and I'm looking at it from, you know, maybe your standpoint, where now it's kind of like the shackles are off, and now you're able to do what you want to do. Like, I know you and I had talked when we were at the Oak Show. How frustrating, and the conversation we had really stuck with me afterwards, and I never really saw that side of it. But, you know, like, your name is going on a movie as the director or the producer, and so people associate you with that movie, good or bad. And when a studio says, when you have an idea, oh, this is what I want to do, and then a studio says, well, this is what we want you to do, and they change actors or characters or plots on you, even though they're the ones that got their hands in and maybe muddied the waters, you're the person whose name is associated with it for the rest of time. So, like, I would, and I know how, I can imagine how frustrating that could be, and it seems like this removes that problem for you.
Well, it's frustrating, but they're paying you, so it's like, you get anesthetized. You're like, well, this is great. And then you're like, fuck. And you're like, but it's kind of great. Fuck. And there's this feeling that, like, it doesn't matter what you're getting paid, it's not enough to fill the frustration of like, but this can be so much better. And you hired me because you trusted me, and now all of a sudden you're second guessing. It's the second guessing, it's thinking about it, it's more money, more problems, where suddenly, like, I really believe that the studio system is truly broken. And broken in a way that the people that are making them, a lot of them don't even like movies or know the movies. So yes, there are like filmmakers that are doing it, like Chris Nolan and other people that can fully have that artistic control. And Quentin, and God bless them for doing what they want, but it's very, very rare. It's not, and it used to be like, you know, there were DVD sales, there was more money, but now what's happened, because stuff just goes to streaming and you don't have that DVD money, it's created this ripple effect of panic where every movie is so fucking all or nothing on, you know, like, and then you see like Mickey 17, and obviously it's fucking bong, and it's a good movie and people like it, and it underperforms, and there's no backup. The backup plan to that would have been like home video, it'll make its money back. But now someone's head's gonna get chopped off, not like the way I would chop them off, but whereas when you're making a movie, like, you know, even Thanksgiving, we made it for 15, it made 50 at the box office. I was like, let's make them for that, you know, 5 million and under, where you can go fuck nuts. I'd rather make a movie for $3 million that, you know, Cabin Fever was $1.5 million, Hostel was 3.8 million, Green Inferno was 3 million. Like, these are the movies that matter to people, and these are the movies that matter to me. So why am I trying to do this other thing when this is what I love? And before, it was like, you know, with piracy, like, I got fucking pirated on Hostel too. I got no money from clowns, so I was like, I can't afford to make these $2 million movies anymore because there's no DVDs, but now everything's changed. And I was like, all right, we now have a system where I can make a movie and we can, you know, with Iconic, get out there in 2,700 theaters, and because of you guys, we all have a direct line to each other. I can post it on Instagram, you guys would know what it was, whereas before you couldn't reach it. So it's really cool.
Yeah. Well, I know we had talked too, and then I read into it some more afterwards. You know, just what you went through with the making of Cabin Fever. I mean, there were people, you had told me, whose houses were on the line, you know, financially, because they had invested in you to make that movie. I mean, what a tremendous weight on your shoulders that had to be while you're making it, especially, you know, I mean, now you're more well-known and, you know, your name tag to a movie means much more, but, you know, at the time of Cabin Fever, man, that had to be a tremendous, like, how did you sleep at night, you know?
I didn't sleep. Everybody on Cabin, we all developed health problems from stress, like high blood pressure, like stuff you don't get at like 29 years old I had because Cabin Fever was such an anxiety. I mean, glad the movie turned out scary because making it was so anxiety inducing, only in that there were these dentists that were, we called them the Lunderguards after Jerry Lundergaard from Fargo. They talked like they were from Fargo. And so they were like, you know, you should put Mario Lopez in your movie. I'm like, I love Mario Lopez, but I don't like, he's like the Beatles, Eli. He's like the Beatles. And this was before Dancing with the Stars. I was like, I love Saved by the Bell, but I don't know. So then they were like, so then they said they were gonna put the money in, but they weren't wiring the money, but we were like starting, they committed like $500,000 to us, which was to get us through the shoot. And 3 days before shooting, they dropped out. And we're like, what? And he's like, yeah, you gotta cast my daughter. I said, your daughter's never acted. It's like, I know, but she wants to be one, and if I'm gonna pay for your movie, I'm gonna give her that dream. I'm like, well, then we're not working together. Like, they held me hostage, and that was it. And then we were like begging for money. It was like, I remember we did this thing, it's so shameful and yet amazing. You couldn't do it now, but like, we gave the crew their checks on Friday, because the bank closed at 5, so we gave them their checks at 5, so they couldn't cash them. They would like, to wait till, you know, weekend, we had to wait till Monday, so all weekend, okay, we have 48 hours. It was like, quick, we called everybody we knew to wire money to our bank accounts that when their checks went in on Monday, they would, I mean, it was that level of stress. I was like, Aunt Gladys is gonna give me $5,000, we can buy that film. It's like, great, oh, this person gave us $5,000. I mean, between takes, I was calling people asking for money, which is not an optimal way to make a movie. There's enough pressure. And then the union shut us down, which is why I went to Prague for Hostel, but they took all our money, so we had to limp back to LA, and then we're like with an incomplete film, and I'd have to show the movie with like blank chunks, scene missing, to investors, and finally we needed $700,000 to finish it. And then we got $350, which could get us through the shooting, and then we needed this other $400,000. So back then you'd send a rough cut of your VHS. So stop me if this is like insanely boring. Like, so there I am, like,
this is the stuff that people never
this is what
get to
happens.
hear.
So we're like, we're complete. By the way, I'm living in a $700 a month apartment, staying, borrowing money from my parents. I'm 30, borrowing money from my parents to pay for it, charging like groceries on my parents' credit card. Cause I'm like, and they were so supportive. Like my dad's retirement was $100,000, and they put it into the movie. I'm like, and someone else, one of them, Sam Frail, like had double mortgaged his house. Like my dad would have been wiped out. I was like, there was so much pressure, and I was like, it's gonna work. Fuck, this better work. And you're just so possessed, being like, I have one mission in life, to make this movie. And I knew the rough cut. I was like, and there was no R-rated horror. People said R-rated horror movies are dead. I was told it is actually impossible to make more than $15 million all in on an R-rated horror movie. Horror is dead. And I was like, I think shitty movies are dead. Yeah. If you make a good movie, the audience is there. They've just been given crap, and they've just sort of forgotten what a good movie is. So anyways, I remember the last $400,000, we were waiting, and they were like, we had a sound mixing stage, this place Nova Star in Hollywood, and we were sitting on the mix stage, and the guy's like, the boss just called, it's like, your deposit hasn't hit. And we're like, what do you mean? So now at this point, I had sent the tape to the Toronto Film Festival, and they're like, we'll put it in this new thing we have, Midnight Madness. And we're like, well, the movie's not done. How long's the festival? They're like, it's 12 days. We're like, put us last, which is the worst slot. I was like, because the movie's not done. And I was like, put us dead last at midnight, just to give us a chance to, because we were mixing during the festival. And they're like, we've been accepted to the festival. They've given us a slot, and we're on the mixing stage, and the money hadn't hit. And we're like, what the fuck's going on? And we're like, call these guys, not the Lunderguards, these are these guys out of Connecticut. And we're like, get them on the phone, and they're not answering their phone. So now it's like 9 o'clock. Now we're like, in theory, like paying for a mix stage, not mixing the movie without the money there. And we're like, what are we doing? And then finally they called, and we're like, what's going on? And the guy goes, well, I had to show it to my 12-year-old. And we're like, what? He goes, yeah, to see if it was a good investment. And he said, Dad, this is better than American Pie. We wired the money. It's literally like at a Mulholland Drive. Like the movie shut down, you go to the ranch, you give the cowboy the password or not. Like that's like fate. It's literally And of course, I think Ty West put him, the kid, and gave him a cameo in Cat Fever 2. We're like, yeah, I owe that kid my career because the whole thing would have been fun. Like, and then we wound up being dead last. But I remember Harry Knowles had heard about it from Ain't It Cool News was a thing, and I was like, dude, I'm a little worried because we're dead last, and everyone says everybody goes home on day 7 or 8. And so Harry wrote a whole thing going like, don't leave. I have a feeling about this movie. I've heard about it from some effects guys. Like, this might be the one. And so because Harry wrote that, this buzz started. I remember being at the lab, because you'd watch it, the film print, 3-color, timing, point of red, point of green. It was not digital. You just told the guy while you're watching the movie, little less red, little more green, little dark. That was it. Wow. It was cool. That's how you did it. So I was at Deluxe watching it, and we did it, and I picked up the print, because I was physically carrying the print with me, like on day 9 of the festival. And I landed, and I saw a friend from film school who was working at Miramax, and he goes, dude, everyone who's seen your movie said it's fucking amazing. So you mean me? Like, I didn't tell him I was the only person who had watched the print to check it at the lab and then took it with me on the plane. I was literally watching it, looks good, packed it up, got on the airplane. Wow. And he's like, dude, everyone's saying your movie's amazing. Like, the lie had spread so fast. And it was great. And then back then I was like, we're gonna make up DVDs and give out like little trailers and BTS. So making up a DVD was like a crate, like, whoa, how did you make a DVD? We made up these little 10-minute trailers. We slipped them under everyone's hotel door. So all the buyers got these fucking, they're like, whoa, a DVD. Back then it was like a novelty. Everyone was still on VHS. And then, they watched it, they watched the trailer, and then we had a bidding war in it. Then it became Lionsgate's, they tested it and recut it. Then it became their top grossing film of 2003, and they're like, huh. And then number 2, House of a Thousand Corpses, like, maybe there's something to this horror. And then they were like, yeah, we just bought this other movie, Saw. And then, and then even Hostel. It was like, so that kind of, I remember being at the beginning of that way of trying to convince people, and I still feel like I'm there. I still feel like, and then Terrifier 3 proves it, and it's weird how in Hollywood nobody wants to acknowledge it. They're like totally almost embarrassed by it. It made them look kind of like, well, what the fuck are you doing if this movie just like proved you all wrong? Everything you were telling us about what the fans want and the horror fans and how to reach them, like, they're like, what is Terrifier 3? I was like, well, if you've been in the horror community, you know exactly what that movie is. And it's no surprise why that movie did what it did. But there were like, but even now, at the Independent Spirit Awards, to me, it's such a joke. Because I was like, the only movie that really should be honored is Terrifier 3. Like, how David Howard Thornton, how Lauren LaVera, like, how they didn't get awards, or at least nominated, for the performance, like what you see them doing in that movie, I was like, and again, that's horror. It's like classic, like it's great, and I'm very happy for Coralie. I adore her, and her heart is so pure, and she's up there fucking pumping the blood, spraying it, like she was like, fuck it, and she wouldn't compromise her movie. She took it out of Universal, she's so French, she's like, I wouldn't fucking change it for anything, I don't give a fuck, I don't get like, fuck it, what are they gonna do, fucking sue me, fuck you, like, I love her. So, and so for Coralie, it's nice to see the Academy Awards, finally recognizing Demi Moore and the makeup effects, like, it's beautiful. But we all know that I was like, there is no Terrifier without David Howard Thornton, and the guy does it with no lines. Like, his performance is so brilliant that we're not walking around like Art the Clown because it's gory or because the kills are good. It's the way he moves his head, the way he does a smile, the way Damien shoots him, the way Lauren, like Elliot, like the whole cast of that movie is so good. It's crazy to see Hollywood pretend it doesn't exist. So I was like, great, you guys go do that. And then unfortunately, a lot of directors are like, yeah, it's hard to pay our rent, because it is hard to make money on an independent movie. It's crazy, they don't pay you. I mean, even on like hits, they're like, yeah, it'll take 3 years to get your money. I was like, how about this? Why don't we just like release them, make them ourselves, release them ourselves, and just build IP, and then we don't need the studios anymore. We truly do not. Let's fucking build our own.
Questions?
Oh, questions, of course. It's interesting. He asked if I would remake any classic horror film, what would I do? It's interesting. There are certain movies that I've asked about. Like, I was like, what's going on with Basket Case? Because that to me is a masterpiece. But also, you could redo it without taking away from the original, because the original is one of the greatest films of all time, but it's really the last 10 minutes that pushes it into like another stratosphere of brilliant. But also kind of having done Knock Knock and having done Death Wish, and then even taking Thanksgiving, I was like, I think I got that out of my system. I would certainly produce one if someone came to me with a really cool take, but to me, unless you have an idea, that's going to be like, okay, this is not only a great this is not only a great modernized, updated, like it's a very smart update of it. It can sit along, it will get people to appreciate the old one. That was part of it. Like part of like, I was like, Death Game's a masterpiece, it's completely underseen, and now it's on Joe Bob. It's all, you know, it's like a whole, like it got remastered, like we could use the movie to shine light on the original. So it would have to be one of those films. But really, honestly, I got too many original ideas I want to do. It's the truth.
Years ago, a lot of bands had trouble with the music labels when they released something controversial. And a lot of times some bands got dropped, they were forced to make changes to please their shareholders and keep the rock and roll thing. How do you intend to handle something that's really controversial that comes your way?
Well, everyone's signing up for something controversial. I'm being very clear from the beginning. And I think there's good controversy and there's like, you know, I want stuff that's going to be like, oh fuck, that's edgy. But that's the whole thing about iconic, is they're not telling me what to do. Anyone who's signing up for this is signing up for We Trust Eli. And I know that. And whether that's I have several private, high net worth individuals that are just like, you got this. If you, like, we're not going to judge it, we're not going to do it. And I think in general, the audience tells you if it's too controversial, if it's too much. And my whole theory is that, you know, time is the only critic that matters. You know, when I told Quentin the idea for Hostel, he goes, don't think about opening weekend, think about that weekend 15 years from now, if kids are still watching it at a sleepover. And they are. So it's like, you know, like Terrifier starting, and, you know, it's a long journey. It's a long lifestyle for that. So I said, don't worry about making something that seems like it's too offensive or too crazy, because we'll make those at a price. I'm gonna make those for 2 or 3 million, so they'll make their money back. But even if they don't, over time they will. Even if they don't, we still have 10 others. So you're taking bets on stuff. So I've been very selective about who I take money from. There are some people that are like, we'll give you the money. And it's like, yeah, all you have to do is we'll be just a seat on the board. We'll just have to approve, obviously. And I was like, bye. That's it. This is not a democracy. This is a monarchy. There's one voice here. It's me. I'm the creative director, because I want to make what I want to make. I'm going to be right sometimes and be wrong sometimes, but I have a general instinct as a horror fan for what I want to see and what's been done before. That's the other thing, is these people in the studios don't know the history of horror. I made a fucking show called The History of Horror, talking about the history of horror. Anyway, that has since been ripped off countless times, but we don't worry about that. But yeah, without me. Anyways, but I know what's been done, and I know what else you're doing. Like when I get a studio exec suggest that the twist in Thanksgiving be the killer's twin brother, and I was like for certain that they were trolling me. And then I quickly realized that they weren't. And then I can list the 700 movies where that's been done. Then they go, oh, and then I go, I don't ever want to speak to this person again, because they're not, like, if you're gonna come at me with a suggestion, you better know, you better do, and the fact that I know you haven't done your fucking homework means I do not respect you. I do not respect your opinion. And I'm only gonna work with people like, you right there, my CEO, John Shars. Now John is very low key. So John's very funny, because John went to Wharton. Someone's like, you should be my friend John for your company. He built up, he was at Google, built up Malcolm Gladwell's podcast, went to Wharton, went to Penn, like really smart business. He goes, but he also has this kind of like horror podcast called Bloody Good Horror. I was like, what? So that's John. So meanwhile, I was some co-host like yesterday, like, wait, what? What are you doing? So he's like, so John, for fun for the last 10 years or something, like 18 years, yeah. So a long time, they've been doing their podcast just for the love of horror movies. So he's like, oh man, I better listen to those old episodes. He said some shit. I was like, don't worry, it's fine. But John is like, he's like, I found someone who is like a total geek about horror, but also someone who knows how to run a company. So that's what I want. I was like, we've got enough horror experts. I just need people that are great and excited and bringing new energy and ideas. So I also want to be boutique. You know, I'd rather be like a specialty unit. You know, I remember kind of Miramax in the 90s before obviously Harvey went nuts. Miramax in the 90s was so exciting when they did Trainspotting and Pulp Fiction, and then they're like, we have this new thing, Dimension, and we're doing this movie, you know, Scream. It was like, this company was so cool and so cutting edge. I was like, there hasn't been a new, I mean, Neon is releasing some really exciting movies, and they've done extremely well with horror, and it's great, but like, there isn't one company that's like, these are the guys that are making the most fucked up movies, and that's what I want it to be. The worst scene to film. Now, by worst, do you mean the conditions to film, or like the most disgusting one, or what was the trickiest? All right. Okay. Well, obviously, the torture scenes were pretty intense because I remember like saying to Derek Richardson, I was like, when he was like screaming before, like when it was the Achilles cut, and he has to be like, is this, you know? And you know, with actors, I don't rehearse the scream because. It's got to be real, and they can only do it 1 or 2 times, and you give them a couple days off after where they don't have to talk, because I know it, you blow out your voice. It's fucking, unless you're like a singer and trained, you're going to blow out your voice doing that. So I remember saying that Derek, it was very like intense, but he just wasn't quite there yet, and I was like, not that I want to be an actor. He didn't want to be let off the hook. He's like, no, I want to like, is it there? I'm like, And I just went up to him, instead of directing him, I go, do you want this to be your last take? And he goes, yeah. I go, then make it your last take. And he went, all right. And he was like, I was like, action. And he jumped up, and the fucking chair, that heavy ass metal chair that I still have, it fucking landed on his toe. And he never broke character. He just fucking went to a place where his eyeballs popped out of his head. And he stayed in the take. And I was just watching, we were just like, whoa. And then afterward, like, he's like, yeah, and he was like crying. Because as Jamie Lee Curtis says, when you scream, your body doesn't know you're acting. Like, there is a physical reaction after that of like being in a crime, being in a traumatic scene, where like, if you want to, I mean, yeah, there's like the Michael Fassbenders, and they're the actors that can like dial it in and out. But for most of us, like when you scream like that, you really, you know, it takes a while, even though you're not like, even though it's fake, to let your body fucking physically calm down from a thing like that is just like, holy shit, your heart's racing, then you're playing, your adrenaline drops, you crash after, like it's a lot. So that torture scene was the hardest one to film. And then the car hit was really, really, really hard because we're dropping line, I'm like just fucking 3 cameras. And this, my God, the stunt girl was so good. She's fucking rolled off the car, boom. But I remember the first time she did it, it was like, all right, she watched it, she's like, we need another one. I'm like, really? And she went, wham, and I thought she killed herself in the concrete. She did. She had a back pad in her head, but doing the hits in the cobblestone. I think she went on to do Xena after Married a Stunt Guy. She was so fucking cool. But I was like, when you watch that, you're like, oh fuck, that is a girl. She's like, we got to do it, and that's what I learned is that, like, you know, if you're doing these stunts or scenes like that, you got to fully go for it. Doing it halfway is how people get hurt. Fully going 100%, like carefully planned, is like with Thanksgiving. I was like, it only works if we're all careful, but if we all go for it. And we all listen when we say cut. And if someone really falls next to you, you pick them up. Like the Thanksgiving trampoline, you've got to fully, if we do the half version of it, it's going to look like shit. If we all look at your neighbor, say hello, I made everyone introduce themselves, like we're all partners in a scene, but we're going to go fucking crazy. We had 20 stunt people and 600 extras, and they fucking went for it. And the Canadians, so it's like, cut, sorry. So polite. Americans be like, I thought we should do what we call Canadian Thanksgiving, where the killer's like, sorry. It was fun.
I was gonna say, speaking of Thanksgiving, for me, I know it's already cemented as like my yearly movie with the
Love
holiday. Like I forced the whole family to watch it, and I was like, we're watching a holiday movie like this past year.
Amazing.
Yeah, they were like, crap, not my holiday movie. I was like, well, it's mine. So every year amazing. Speaking of, are there any
Yes. Well, the insight right now is that we were like rushing to try and shoot this spring, and then the fires came. And the fires were so scary and devastating that like there were so many people affected by it that it was just like, we got to take a break to see who like isn't going to lose their house. Because even if it wasn't the actors, there were like crew members, producers, agents, lawyers. Like if one person, lawyer, lost their house, they could, you know, I was like, well, let's push to the fall. And now everyone's, obviously they're very busy people. So we all want to do it. We're all kind of circling up about like, we just have like, when's this chunk of time we can all do it? Whether that'll be, you know, early fall, late fall. But we want to have it for 2025. But as for the plot details, you will have to wait. But it shall be a worthy follow-up. Or we will do it.
The way that this is broken up with the company, right, is it's not a producer credit on the movie, right?
No, it is not.
That's not how it works. So you're not a producer, but you're basically in part buying the stock of it, right?
Correct. 10% of the ownership of the company is being offered to the public.
Right. So then my follow-up with that is, I saw there were certain things in the video that you were saying that were like, basically, X amount will be able to do Zoom calls, X amount or whatever. So do you have any breakdown in the specifications of what that is? Of like what tier of people that will be? Is that people paying like hundreds of thousands of dollars, or is it people?
We did them all the way up to $1 million. I did like $100, $500, $1,000, $5,000, $250, like crazy stuff all the way up to $1 million. I kill you if anyone wants. It's like I figured some, you know, lunatic billionaires like I want to get killed. And like that to me was just like the pie in the sky one. We don't need that. I think most people will be doing 100 or 500 or 1,000, but on the when you hit the horror section website in I think the 19th or the 21st, the page will go live. The 19th, the page will go live. So there's like special, you know, there's a different valuation you get if you invest in the first 48 hours. So if you're first in, you get a better valuation, and all the tiers will be broken down. There'll be a deck on the website that explains absolutely everything that you get. Dude, fuck Hanover. Although I was corrected, the Plymouth people said it's actually fuck Duxbury. That's one they really hate. But let's get a question.
Okay, over here.
So, thanks for being here, and congratulations on the horror section.
Thank you.
You talk about Terrifier 3 and Art the Clown. Art started out as a short film. Do you
Yes.
plan on having a shorts division?
Well, I don't know if we're gonna. I would like to do something like that. We're actually there's a company that puts out short films that has approached us about collaborating on something. And you know, I've always been about, look, when I had Crypt TV, I was always about helping give breaks to the next generation of filmmakers. And when I made the Haunted Museum and Urban Legend, it was a great way for me to kind of find awesome filmmakers out there. It's like, here's a half an hour one that you can use to prove, like Justin Harding, you know, did my episodes of Haunted Museum and Urban Legend, and then he did that movie Carved on Hulu that was fantastic. So he was able to use those. So I'm all about helping, you know, whether it's, you know, John Watts or Daniel Stam or, you know, any of the Soska sisters, Gigi Guerrero, any of those directors that I've supported that started with shorts. I mean, because I started with short films, I'm a huge believer in that. So I'm trying to figure out whether we have a division or whether we have a mechanism partnering with someone who does that, where these are the horror sections picks, and we sort of do it, you know, like, well, these are the movies, these are the short films, and whichever ones are the best, maybe those are the ones that we adapt. You know, we help them adapt it into a feature film, but they're kind of proving it with a short film first. So it's definitely something that we're already talking to a company about. But thank you guys, thank you so much. I gotta tell you, it's really, I came here, it's a pleasure. Again, this is for us. I'm doing this regardless, so you're welcome to be a part of it. I will be here tomorrow. I have advanced copies of Red Light Disco, which is my groovy Italian disco album. It's going to come out the 21st, but you guys can get it first. And please just come by and say hi. I'll be here tomorrow. But this is it's really a pleasure. Thank you for welcoming me back.